Okay. So, this week, it's been, oh, no audio. Um, is, huh, can it, everyone else can, oh, okay. Okay, send us, oh, she wouldn't, I was going to provide verbal instructions, but, yeah, you can hear now. Okay, wonderful. Yes, I was about to say, please try check your, speakers, and then I realized you wouldn't hear me say that. So, um, this week, we covered a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like it's been a lot in a very short time. And we didn't get, into the details of a lot. So you might be thinking or feeling like you don't quite understand, let's say, databases because we didn't actually look at how to build one, or how to, I don't know, make like a front end back end connection. Like we didn't really touch on a lot. And that's because, it's only been a week. It's only been 4 days. And you have at least, I think it's about 24 more to go, something like that. If I didn't do my math wrong, my math's not great. But it's going to, you have time, and we're going to jump into each of the, many different topics that you learned this week, in depth over time. But taking this sort of high level overview this week allows us to frame the rest of the course in terms of, what are the many different things that are going on within the development of a website. And not just like a website, but like the development process in general. And then how do all these pieces fit together? So, if you want a refresher on any of the things that we covered, or if you missed a lecture at some point, please take the weekend to like go over those again, because we're actually going to be stepping away from a lot of it for quite a while. We're just going to start next week diving into small portions at a time. But if you ever, are throughout the course, if you're ever at a point where you're like, okay, we're learning all this stuff, but how does it fit into the big picture? You can always come back to week 1 lectures to see how things are interrelated and what all the other pieces of the puzzle are. Okay, so for today, I am going to start this slideshow here. Okay. So my focus for today is going to be on 2 parts. One is to give you an understanding of the different career paths available to you. I know we are, learning full stack development. We are learning the process of, website building, sure. But within what you're learning, there's a lot of it's more like a catch-all, right? There's a lot of subfields that you could potentially dive into based on your interests, or you could decide at the end of the course that you do want to be a full stack developer, and you could go directly into the workforce from there as well. So in this case, I wanted to just put up this, first few lines of a very famous poem by Robert Frost, because that's the, it's what it came to mind for me when I was thinking about the choices we make, right? In our careers, for example, where when you make a choice, you're kind of like not choosing not to do something else, right? So in this, poem on the, it's about like a traveler who is standing there. They see the roads splitting in two, and it says, being one traveler, they couldn't travel both of them, so they tried to look down as far as they could on the on the road, because at some point it bent to the undergrowth and they couldn't see, what's coming up. And I feel like your career is kind of the same, right? We can project out and try to see what it's going to look like in the future, We can try to see, what kind of roles exist in the workplace now. But at some point, if we start trying to look 10 years out, right? There's like tech is always evolving and we don't know what's coming up next, right? We don't know at some point. So we make the best choices we can today based on certain criteria, whether that criteria for you is, flexibility. Let's say maybe some kind of positions allow you to work remotely more if that is something that's important to you, or you might, make the choice based on finances. Maybe there's a position that, pays better. That does happen. And maybe that's what, motivates you, and that's what you want to make your choices by. Or you might choose based on interest. And, maybe you're just more excited about a certain subfield. And so that's how you make your decision. Everyone has a different reason and a different driver. So there's nothing like, what's it called, wrong about choosing one or the other, as long as you know why you're making the choices you're making. So let's talk moolah, right? Most of you, I think pretty much anyone who goes into a very intensive course and is putting away lots of time every single day to learn about stuff, is planning to, use the skills that they learn, right? All of you want to use the skills that you learn to actually, improve your careers, improve your life. And of course, everyone knows developers make a lot of money. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the different areas. Oh, Sundus, did you have a question? I see your mic is unmuted. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Yes, so, oh, okay. But before we got to the, the details, because we're going to spend quite a lot of time on that, I wanted to just mention some of the, like, just this week, we found ourselves, there's quite a lot of students, and, we're really happy about that. And we were trying to, streamline on our end the whole process of like, student management in a way, making sure that everyone who has, emailed us about like scheduling conflicts, like we can follow up with them, making sure that if anyone requested, what am I saying here? If people are, participating in class, like we noticed that. So we were, thinking about, how to do this, and sure, we could do it by hand. But things like attendance, participation, and that third point, I'll get to it. So these kind of, reports we're getting from Zoom about, who's attending and who's, participating in the chats. And about that Zoom attendance, I know in the past couple of days, we sent out an email about it, and the other instructors did mention it, but I wanted to mention it again. For class attendance, we are using Zoom reports, and what that means is after the call, Zoom gives us a list of people who were on the call, and because we automated it, because we are programmers, we don't do things by hand. We'll let the machines do it, right? We tell the machines what to do. So because we automated it, what that means is, on our end, it saves us a lot of time, because in just about, I'd say 3 clicks, it takes now, in just about 3 clicks, we get daily attendance. But the downside is that we don't actually have someone looking through the attendance record. So if your name on Zoom does not match your real name, like your real name or your full name, it has to be, first name and then last name. If it's not in that format, it's not gonna match our records, and you might be marked absent even though you're here. So it's really important to click the little 3 dots that's beside your name on the Zoom, room, and select their rename. and you can put your name in this format, okay? So that was a little caveat there. But even on the everyday life, making it smoother and better. What I wanted to just I guess bring to mind here is that you can automate tasks once you know how to program, right? And that's great and all. And if you are spending 3 clicks instead of, I think there's, at least in that, let's see, how many people do we have on today? 55. Okay, let's say 55. If we were trying to take attendance for 55 people, it would take 55 different comparisons to be like, okay, this person, were they here, were they not? And that every single day would have taken a lot of time. And so now we are able to focus that time, instead of just on taking attendance, on actually catering to needs and providing project feedback and things like that instead. So benefits of being a programmer is you can just automate things. Class participation, I wanted to actually show you that one as well, just real quick here. A second. Okay, and I guess I can. So for that, oh, let me see where this. Yes, okay. So just as an example of things you can do as a okay, so I guess I'll just screen share the whole screen for a moment there. So I just pulled together a couple of examples. So when we finish up with class here, we get an export of the chat log. So all of you who are actively participating in class, thank you. We are noticing. We are noticing, thanks to our ability to automate this. It makes it so much easier than if somebody looked at this chat log and tried to go through it and went into our attendance list and then tried to count up every single time. Let me see here. Every single time the same person made a comment, if they were trying to add that up manually, that would take a lot of time, right? These are 2-hour-long lectures. But because we are programmers, we looked at this format and we were like, oh, no. We asked ourselves, there's a specific format here. There's a date, there's a name, there's 2 little dots, and then there is what the person said. And if we're just trying to, get a sense of, who's participating and how much, all we need really is just to make sure that every time we see the same name, we count it up, right? So what we did was we actually put together a little script that, again, this is just JavaScript. You guys will be able to do this yourselves as well very, very soon. And this is just 41 lines of code. And that's including all these extra blank spaces and comments, which we'll talk about in the future. But just 41 lines of code. And now every time we finish up with a call, we don't need to do much. All we need to do is run the script and we get a beautiful output like this. Okay, so this was, I don't remember which day it was that I just ran this on. It was like an example chat log. But, we can see exactly how many times people have participated in the chat. I know this doesn't capture the audio participation yet, but, those of you who are audio participating, it's easier to remember than when there is a whole chat log, because it's also in the recordings and everything. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Even for the attendance tracking, let me just show you the script. No, that's the wrong one. But it's not really a script because we're taking note of this in Google Sheets at the moment, not like a full-on database. But in Sheets, we made use of the we made use of the functions within Sheets, which when you look at it, it can look a little scary. So the thing about Google Sheets is that you can ask it to basically create the values in a column. So if you have like a spreadsheet and you have data in some of these columns, then if you want to fill in this column automatically, you can create a function, and we'll talk about actual functions later on, but you can create some way of saying the value in here is going to use information in the other columns and create something. So you can see here, it looks very complex, and it took a couple hours to to put together, but it very, very smoothly checks to make sure, if checks our list of students and then checks the list of people who are here based on what Zoom has given us as an output, and then checks to see how long people were on the call. So as you can see here, we're checking for if you were here on the call for 100 hours at least within the 2-hour time frame, which I think is plenty. And then if you were there, we don't mark you with anything, and if you were not there, we mark you with absent. So yes. Same for the lab also. Yeah, so it seems that there's 2 parts to it. It's only really tracking lecture because otherwise you guys are in breakout rooms, and breakout room participation, we see it more so visually during class, but we don't get chat logs for the breakout rooms, unfortunately. So that's it. There's things in there that we need to figure out still for how to track participation there. Does it make sense to count hi, morning, all of the above of participation? You can keep saying hi all day. Yes, technically you can, but this is more so I love that. We are assuming people won't be doing that. And in terms of participation, it's more so like for us to get an understanding of how people are participating, and who's participating more or less. And it's more so just for our records and understanding. It isn't like a direct correlation. I mean, if you are not participating at all, please do. But it's not like you have to be in the top like 10 participants or participators for every single class or anything like that. So even, there might be some lectures where you have more questions or you have more answers for, others who are asking questions in the chat. But 80%. But that, wait, do you mean by that is the highs is 80%? Yes. When you reply to someone, that does show up in the chat logs. And again, where it's kind of yes. Okay, so let me bring that back up here. Let's take a look at this chat log, right? So the first bunch of it is, good mornings and stuff. But then as we go through the day, and again, these are like 2-hour chat logs, you'll see that, people are responding. Sure, there's a bunch of no's, there's a bunch of, yeses and boths, and maybe those aren't like, questions, and they're not, answers to other people's questions, but they are, participation to questions that were asked to you either by, us or by like other people in the chat as well. So and if you reply to someone, I think it should, because it shows as reactions even as participation as well. So let me see if there's like something that says someone reacted to someone else or responded to someone else. Huh. I believe so. Yes. I think I remember. Let's see if I can find that example first. Yeah, I don't seem to see. Like I can see reactions. But I'll look into the chat log more for like to answer those questions so that we know at least on our end exactly what data we're collecting. Those are awesome questions. But if you send a private message to another student in class, I believe that does come up, but I'm not 100%. Like I didn't see anything here, at least in this log, that tells me that. But
as for the reply, I just tested it. And you can see the reply, but it shows on like the right, like kind of like towards the right of the page.
wait,
I'm gonna see if I can post a screenshot.
oh yeah, okay. Sometimes people who are new to a certain concept may have more questions. Yeah, exactly. So, if you are like, what's it called? If you don't have questions, like that's fine too. And again, like we're tracking, it's like tracking participation more so for our understanding of it. It's just that we would have to do this manually if we didn't automate it. And so like, I'm really trying to more so talk about the automation and less so about like, people like you're not participating. It's for that piece. Because trying to, make that tally by hand would have taken a lot of time. You saw some reactions, test. Oh, yes. It is showing replying. Ooh. Yes. In my name, I usually add one more letter than on the name in the form I have submitted. Ooh. Yes. So Esra, if you could send us an email with the name that you usually use, like on your Zoom records. I think that would be better, just so that we can update our, like on our end as well, to match the Zoom records, because that's what's kind of like automating this. That's a great question there. Oh, sweet. Thank you, Mahone. Yeah, it looks like we do see it. So this is the screenshot there, replying to which item. But that means I need to, that's a really good point, because I need to then update the script to allow counting this as well, because replying to others in the course is definitely a big, a big part of it. This is a collaborative process. So in our, like, let me see if this is an easy fix or if it's something that's going to take more time. It's going to take a little bit more time. So I'm going to have to update this, what we're looking for in the text document, to look for this as well. So thank you for that. I'm going to save this. How do I save this? And oh, maybe save as. Okay, I will save this here and do update. Okay, and yeah, we'll do that so that it can actually gather. Wait, actually, one second. This does capture it because it's still in the same format as a date coming and then some text and then 2 dots. So yeah, I can confirm that replies are being tallied as well within the script that we have right now. What happens when you decide to switch devices for lectures, for example, moving from laptop to the iPhone to listen to the lectures? If your name is set properly on both devices, it'll carry over perfectly fine. That's a great question. All right. So again, the point here is more so about automate your life and make your job way easier to do, and less so about like the actual participation tracking, even though, for our understanding and knowledge, we are tracking it. So just keep that in mind. But I just wanted to, focus a little bit more on the, the like real life practical example of us, being programmers and being like, oh, we have this problem that, we would have to have someone come in and like count up the number of times someone talked, or we could just write a script for it. So, that kind of power you're going to have at your fingertips as well. Can I just use the first name, or you have to use the last name too? You do have to use the last name as well. Because the Excel, this thingamajiggy that we have written, what it's checking is it's checking against your full name. It's checking the Zoom participation, the full name there with the full name that we have on file. Alrighty, so yeah, it makes our life a lot easier if you just use your full name there. Razak, I see that you have your hand raised. Did you have a question?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Your audio is very low. Is it possible to like maybe adjust your mic?
Okay, how's now?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay, so I was wondering, is the participation playing part in attendance, or the attendance it's about you log in, that means you're in?
Yes, if you log in, you're in, but with a small caveat, and I mean, y'all can like play with this, but you log in, and if you were here for at least 100 minutes during the call, so during the 2-hour time slot, which is like 240 minutes, we're waiting to see, anyone who is here for at least the lecture section is going to be marked as absent. Sorry, that is incorrect completely. Is going to be marked as present. And anyone who is not is going to just be marked as absent on our end, so that we know that we need to follow up to make sure that they don't fall behind. That's like the main intention with taking attendance, is to just keep track of who we need to, follow up and make sure that, hey, I noticed you missed the lecture. Do you need any help with the material in that lecture? So it's more so for that. Like, we're not we're not being super penalizing about that. It's just because we understand, like, there's a lot of people who are, unable to make it to lecture. There's life commitments, people have to go. And, for all those who, sent us emails like, hey, this afternoon I can't attend class, like, we do take that into consideration. So that's what this part here is. If you have given us a reason for absence, it's gonna mark you blank as well, so that we know, like, that was intentional. We don't need to like send you an email being like, hey, you weren't in class, what's up? So that's kind of
I usually leave in the second lab after finishing my like exercise. So sometimes I really finish exercise like in a matter of 45 minutes. So
yeah.
I live really early, right?
Yeah, for sure. We understand that. So it's only really counting the lecture time, because
Okay,
like anyone who's here over 100 minutes, you're good. You'll be
good. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you for those questions. And I just realized, yes, we have 2 hours of lecture in my brain right now. 2 hours of lecture, 120 minutes in total. If you miss 20 minutes here and there, that's fine as well. Okay, so let's get back to the moolah, because that is what we're mostly talking about today. Oh, actually, wait, one other quick thing before we get there. So Stack Overflow survey 2023 versus 2021. I just put this here because it was something that I came across, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me just show you guys what happens when the server people I guess stop hosting, or stop providing the files for a certain version of the web page. So this Stack Overflow survey, I think I mentioned in one of the last lectures, it's basically a survey that goes out, and people just in the developer community respond to the survey with information. So I'll pop this link in the chat for anyone who is curious. And it has a whole bunch of information in here about, what kind of education profile, the people using Stack Overflow, which is like a forum for developers to ask each other for help. How they learn to code or how they learn to code, online resources they use, so on and so forth. There's also down here, we've got technologies that they use every day. So, JavaScript is like 63% of all developers who answered the survey were using JavaScript. We've got, 45% using MySQL, Postgres, so on and so forth. So it's really handy. There's a lot of like interactive elements to it. On the right-hand side, we can jump to any part of the page. And, this here is a really good, well laid out website, right? This is a website at the end of the day, right? So it's got really good, looks. It was designed really well. And I would expect that because it's a developer community. And it's also very interactive. Now, I was trying to go and look at, what it was like 2 years ago. So I came up to the URL and I was like, well, if 2023 is like this of a URL, then perhaps if I just change this to 2021, I'll get to see what 2021's, whole thing is. So to test it out first, I tried 2022. So let me just come in here and I'm like, okay, let me try to see what it was like in 2022. And that worked just fine, right? This is still a really pretty website. It has the same kind of stuff, but the data is a little bit different because now we're looking at 2022 data. And then I was like, okay, let's go down to 2021. And so I come in here, put 2021, and I get this. Right? This is not pretty, right? This is, if you can see, based on what we learned earlier this week, this is just the HTML, right? There's no styling involved. There's no like interactive elements. There's only links, right? So what happened here, my best guess, Web 1.0, yep, exactly. But I don't think that this is because, they were using they were not using CSS and JavaScript in 2021. I don't think that's the right conclusion. I think that what happened was the server, when it sends the files from the server to us, to my browser, it used to send CSS and JavaScript files as well, but it has, for some reason, it doesn't have those files anymore, or it doesn't send them anymore. And so that's why we are seeing just the HTML, because that's the part that loaded. And the HTML is the file that usually goes back and tells the server, what other files are needed, like which style files and which interaction files, and that stuff is missing. And so, yeah, you have to make sure. So this would be, a bug on the server side where they're, the server is not providing the files that are needed for this page to load. Yeah, it is the structure. So real life examples of what happens when there's bugs. Alrighty, so let's get back into it there. And let me go back here. Okay, so let's go slideshow again. All right, so that was a bunch of just real world examples for today. Let's talk now about who's hiring developers. Can I have a few guesses in the chat? Who actually, like, when you think about jobs, after this course, what kind of companies do you think actually hire you guys? Okay, startups, businesses, every company in the world. Google, healthcare, everyone, consultancies, nice, IT companies. It's 404. Oh, that must be about the 2021 one. Interesting. Digital companies. Okay, IT. Okay, awesome. All companies need website developers. Everyone needs a website. Aha, nice. Oh, thank you, Abdul Hadi, for that screenshot there. Yes. So what we're seeing in the screenshot that Abdul Hadi just posted was that what's happening is that the resource was not found, right? We know the 404 not found error. The CSS and JavaScript were not found there. Sorry, I just saw that. Nice. Thanks, customer service, IT. Okay. All right. So I'll take your answers in just a moment. Everyone that needs an app, e-commerce, robots. Okay. All right. So yes, some of the answers here, were, tech, IT, those kind of companies. And, when we typically think about programmers. That's for the most part what we think about, right? It's like people working at, Meta and Google and all of that. And it can seem like that's the only place where there's jobs. And then you look at, the competition there, and it's like, how am I ever going to get a job there? The good news is that those companies only make up about 25% of the hiring workforce when it comes to developers. And all of the other sectors that you guys mentioned here are open. They need developers as well. So I'm going to take us here, and I will take some of these answers that we got, and let's play a little game of Family Feud, right? So you guys are providing answers, and I will I'll open up the ones that match, right? So we've got startups, business, Google, healthcare. Okay, so the first one, Google, right? Technology, or software as a service companies, right? These are companies whose business is to make software. So that's how, that's all they care about. They make software, and then they sell that software to businesses or people who are trying to do other stuff, right? So these are companies like Google, Meta, Microsoft. They're in the business of technology. We also have an answer here, healthcare. So let me open that up there. Healthcare. Healthcare is a huge one. So everything from, the way your medical records are seen to, how you book appointments. We all got, like texts about, get your COVID vaccine, right? Like there's an entire world out there about like our medical records and our contact information and our IDs. Like, when we go into, the pharmacy or something, and we hand over our, what's that called? Oh, it's called the health card. They take that and then they punch it into the system, and then suddenly you get, your medication for not how much it costs our friends down south in the US, right? Like we don't need to worry about that because we have a healthcare system, but they, check on that information, right? And then there's also, of course, every single hospital, every single, clinic typically has their own booking systems and websites and all of that, and there's programmers behind it all. Okay, so we've got here consultancy. You know what? For consultancy, I would say within consultancies, there's like subfields. So I actually don't have that on the list here, but you can imagine like, a healthcare consultancy or like a SaaS consultancy or all of these other areas that I'm going to open up here. So let's see what else. Bank. Okay, banks are within the finance industry. That's awesome. So finance, everything from banking to, if you have investments, those investments are kind of like you click a button and suddenly you technically own a part of a company. Like it's all happening in the background, right? Things like, your credit scores and if you have like a lease or a mortgage on something, that's all being tracked in some way. There's websites that you use, and they have to be really secure and really, user friendly so that people don't make mistakes while they're on that website. That's all happening in the background there. We've got customer service industry. I think, customer service, I would say, is more like a subset of each of these. Government. Okay, we've got government. Let me go government. Okay, that is sitting right here. Government. Government's a huge one. So everything from, it's somewhat related to all the fields because the government is like this overarching umbrella, but it is, you need websites, and if any of you logged in to a little, it's called, I think, My Account, during tax season, they're holding information about you. There's a website that you can interact with to see what you owe and what how much space you have in your I don't know, RRSPs and stuff like that. There's also if any of you ever took out student loans for anything, there's a page on that. There's like a whole bunch of stuff I don't even know, but then there's also like on the ground things that they do, right? It's like everything from, I don't know, running the fire stations and you know, detecting, like I saw just in the news the other day, like they were working on like creating like a wildfire detection system to like stop the fire before it becomes like big. I know that's been really like it had a big impact on us every single summer. So things like that, right? There's a lot that happens on the software side that is kind of like behind the scenes, but it's there, and people need developers to get that done. Robots. So I see one of the answers here was robots, and I'm gonna put that under, I think, oh no, actually I do have a section on robotics. Great. Okay, so woohoo. So robots is a thing of its own. There's robots that are meant to be, you know, helper robots. There are robots that are meant like, you know, helper robots, like, I don't know if you, those little automatic vacuums. There's ones that are used, you know, in factories. There's ones that are used, you know, for social communication, things like that. There's like a whole subfield there. We've got e-commerce. Yes, so e-commerce is a huge one. Every single, you know, business that we buy things from online, that's under the e-commerce industry, which means, you know, all of these other, you know, companies within all of these other sectors might also have like an e-commerce front. So that's going to need that. Even banking sector needs it. Okay, gaming companies. So I think I have here, one sec, I do have it. Yes, it's under robotics. Entertainment industry, right? Everything from, yeah, games, gaming, but then also media, so like either social or the, what's it called, like videos, YouTube, Netflix, things like that, right? Even news outlets actually can fall under this category. They all need web developers as well, both for like the back end side of like how everything is running, the algorithms, but then also like the actual fronts that people see. Insurance companies. Okay, insurance, that's awesome. I'm gonna loop that under finance. Mang companies. Abdul Hadi, I'm not sure what M-A-A-N-G. Oh, I think, was that Fang? Oh, F became Meta. Okay, there we go. I feel like my brain is still always just thinking Facebook, even though it's Meta now, and Twitter is X. So there's no Twitter anymore. Okay, can you repeat what SaaS is? Sorry. Yes, SaaS is software as a service. It's a company whose job or their whole business model is about software. Okay, the auto industry. Okay, yes. Let me see here. I do have that somewhere. Sharan Sport. There we go. It's right under entertainment. Okay, so transportation industry. Yes, everything from like the cars themselves need developers to, you know, make that run, make all the systems work together. You know, when you're driving, you're not like checking manually if you have gas, like, you know, go and like open up your like gas tank and like look at it, right? You have a nice little screen that tells you when you're low on gas. You have a screen telling you how fast you're going. You don't have to like actually measure it yourself. All of these systems that like work together to make the car safe for you to use. You know, you have that really annoying dinging thing that happens when you don't put your seatbelt in. Like, how does it know? That's all software, right? Making that work all together. So that's great. So we've got transportation. Oh, also just on the transportation, you know, things like your bus schedule, you know, coming on time. I think yesterday Aline gave you guys an example of like, you know, how TransLink was hacked. So it couldn't have been hacked if there wasn't, you know, software running it all in the background. So that's really important. There's also things like this is gonna sound, you know, I remember when it's like breaking down everything around you into software, kind of like it's pretty mind-boggling. So things like traffic lights, right? Like they're programmed to stay on for a while, turn off. And nowadays we also have like sensor-based traffic lights that like detect if there's even a lineup of cars, and you know, if there is, it'll turn it off if there's like a busy road. So that's that all needs software in the background to run as well. Travel agencies. Okay, so let's go travel and tourism, loop that in together. So that of course needs it. You know, if anyone has booked a flight of any sort, or you know, a train of anything that's travel related, even something like a taxi or Uber, that's got software running it, making sure that, you know, when you click through the buttons, you're actually like, all we're really doing is clicking buttons on our screen, right? But how does that actually become you being allowed to, you know, get on the plane and physically go somewhere else, right? That's stuff that's happening in the background, thanks to developers. Okay. Also, you know, booking things like hotels or renting a car or something. That's really important. Loads of stuff there. You know, now we can also like apply for online visas. Like these are, you know, big stuff that we can do thanks to developers, because otherwise, you know, we have to go to the consulate, which might not even be in your city, and you know, you gotta, I know with I think it was Egypt in October, they're like changing the rules for Canadians. We used to be able to just kind of go get a visa on site, but now they're like, oh, you gotta go to the, you know, consulate and get your you know, get your visa there. And I'm like, okay, well, the consulate's like, I think not even in I don't think there's one in Toronto, but you know, it makes life more difficult if we can't do things online, right? Food industry. Oh, you know what? I think that's one I'm missing. So I'm gonna go in here and let's go insert. And we found one that's not even there, but I think it should be there. And let me just make that white here. And again, I'll upload these slides after we are, you know, done here, so that, oh, that did not work. Why did that not work? Okay, I don't know why the text color didn't change there. Very odd. Okay, I'll look into that later. But yes, great job finding something that you know, I hadn't had here then. Okay, we've got manufacturing. That is awesome. Manufacturing right here. Every single thing you ever use, from like the mouse I'm holding and the chair I'm sitting on and the screen I'm looking at, had to be manufactured at some point. And there's a lot, a lot of software that goes into running the manufacturing industry. Yes, there's a lot of hardware too, because it is really like a hands-on, you know, sector compared to something like the technology sector, where pretty much everything is like virtual, not virtual, but like it's software. But the manufacturing industry, you know, it has a lot more of the hardware stuff, and you know, the jobs there are most likely going to be more lower level, more, you know, maybe even merged with robotics in a way, but also things like you know, making sure that the product is made properly, like that all the sensors involved, and making sure that they interact with each other properly. So that's really great. Thank you. Okay, we've got call centers. So call centers, I guess that kind of falls somewhat under customer service, which is like in all of these industries. Advertising. Ooh, advertising. Huh, I think. Interesting. I feel like advertising is kind of like customer service. It's like, it's kind of like everywhere. Thank you for that, Plasma. Wow, you guys are I'm loving this, all these answers. I'm still 43 messages behind. I'll read them all eventually. Education. Okay, education is amazing. Let me come in here. Education industry. That is sweet. So you know, everything from, you know, tracking students to, you know, making sure that the staff, like in, let's say if we think about a college, you know, there's like the student side and there's the staff side, and they have to like kind of work together, and the college is going to have to keep track of all the students, keep track of all the staff it has, make sure that the students are, you know, getting the materials, make sure that the staff is getting, you know, paid, and you know, their benefits and everything, and all of the coordination stuff there happens in the background. And then of course there's always like student portals, there's the teacher portals, and not to mention now we've got also like online education, like, you know, Udemy and you know, blanking on the words, but there's a lot of online education, go at your own pace kind of websites that needed to be built. And at some point, in the progress of the education industry in general, like programmers kind of saw this problem of like, oh, you know what, people have to go to college, but what if we could offer this online? Let's make a website about that, right? And now there's like a whole bunch of platforms. So that is amazing. School, community, doctor's clinic, hospital, office. Awesome. I think we uncovered healthcare, we uncovered those ones, travel, finance. Telecommunications. Yes. So I put here communications. So that's awesome. We've got, everything from like your phone working and calling the right person when you press a button on your screen. Like, it's kind of, it's crazy to think about that. Like, all you're really doing is you're looking at like a screen, a little piece of glass, and you are pressing a button, and suddenly you're like talking to a relative living really far away, right? And all of that happens in the background, and there's developers, making sure that all of that is working fine. There's also a lot of, I'd say like hardware kind of stuff going on in communications as well. But yes, that is amazing. Okay, so oh yes, so blockchain, I wouldn't really classify it as like an industry on itself, at least not yet. But yes, that was something that we all learned about yesterday. Gaming industry, we kind of mentioned that. Stock brokerage, yes, that falls under finance. Corporate, yes, I think corporate's kind of more like companies within these sectors. Automation, education, private lenders, retail. Let's see here. Okay, we've got research. So research, I actually do have that here, and the reason for that is because research, even though there's research that happens in every industry, and I could say it's not really a sector on its own, it kind of is, because the kind of programming that goes into research is kind of different from like what's more so used in practice. So there's a lot of, for example, simulation stuff happening, which basically means that you are using software to imagine scenarios that could happen in the real world, and then seeing how, if you're like in, I don't know, biology research, it would be like how a certain cell reacts, or it could be, if you're in, I don't know, physics research, you're like, you simulate like how the universe expands. Like no one ever actually like physically saw the universe expanding, right? But like using sensors from satellites, like physicists were able to kind of put that all together and program the computer to crunch out what that would look like. What do these galaxies up there look like based on that. So research does classify as like its own sector. And typically the only thing about the research sector is that I feel like it's a lot more like I could be wrong, but I think it involves a lot more of like the mathy side of the programming world within that sector. Sweet, awesome. So a lot of these answers, thank you guys for providing them. It's just that like some of them are already open, so I'm not like going over it again. But definitely like yes, like things like online stores, retail, etc. So someone put here restaurants, so that's great. That's one I did not have here, so that's under food industry there. Okay, let's see here. Real estate. Okay, so that's the new one. Real estate. So if you've ever visited, I mean, it's kind of a pastime for me when I'm procrastinating, going on websites like realtor.ca or Zillow, and just looking at houses, and I mean, fun fact about Hafsa, like I love to compare Vancouver to the rest of the world and kind of see, like, let's say how much it costs to get like a small studio apartment in Vancouver and compare that to like mansions you can get in like, what's that called, in the prairies, for example. So it's a fun thing to do. But yes, the real estate industry is a huge one. And not just the websites that we see there, but also the software that like runs in the background, right? For like, how does someone just, they're just like a person, and they kind of walk into a bank and they're like, oh, I want to buy this house, can I take out a mortgage? And then the bank, I mean, it's kind of like this example is related to the banking industry, but it's also related to the real estate industry, because then it's like they have to, find out if this person qualifies for the mortgage, and then, make sure that they are able to get that. So that's like another thing there. And then like, I know realtors also have like their own sites where they can see things in advance and such. Sorry, what did you say about traffic lights? I'm realizing the timestamp on these comments. I'm literally 10 minutes behind because you guys are like providing such great answers. I love it. So Maho, coming back to the question from 10 minutes ago, what I said about traffic lights was that how like they turn on and off at like a specific time, like they were basically programmed to work a certain way. And you'll notice that like some traffic lights like switch really quickly between green, and then it turns red again, and then green again, whereas others are like on for a really long time, and if you're on the red side, it's annoying. And then nowadays we've got like sensor-based traffic lights that like can see if there's people waiting, and if there is, then it'll like turn it red for the one that's always like green by default. I don't know about you, but I've done it far too many times where I'm like, oh, this isn't turning, I'm gonna go and like push the little walker person button, right? So the sensor-based traffic lights are gonna be a lifesaver there, to make sure that we get smoother roads. Libraries, that's a good one. I think I'll loop that under education industry, but that's an example that I hadn't thought about. That is very true. All right. Oh, every company has applications, so does that make them SaaS? So let me see some of these answers that were provided by others here. So I think their goal is to make software. For example, Adobe is making software, whereas Walmart would probably use the software and make their e-commerce website. And then we have another answer. Some companies like RBC, CIBC have their own software for internal use, and do not sell it publicly. On the other hand, Google, Amazon provide software for public use. These two are perfect answers. Thank you, guys. That is exactly it. So if the company, like their job or their business, like they're selling the software, then they're a SaaS company. Otherwise, they are not. So perfect answers. All right. Would factories come under manufacturing or be its own category because they need to program their machines to make products? I think let's put that under manufacturing, because they, like, I think it's like a bridge, like manufacturing robotics kind of bridge, because a lot of, when we say that they need to make their own machines, we're really, at the end of the day, saying they're making robots to do the job, right? So I think it's kind of like this hybrid between these two. Yes, Coursera edX for education, like online education, even this course, yeah, that's exactly. Okay, sports leagues. Okay, that is actually a new one. That is a sector on its own. I went to, so I'm currently based in Toronto, and here, like, the Toronto Raptors, I think they're called. No, yes, Blue Jays. There we go. The baseball people. I went to like watch a game for the first time in my life, not too long ago, and it was shocking to me how much, I guess, investment goes into the sporting industry. Like it's really cool. And on top of that, it's like coming from like this programmer view, seeing the way that they do the the videos, and like there's literally like this little like video camera. This was at the Rogers Center, or I guess what do you call it, a big the big arena. Anyways, but they had like this camera that like tracks. I don't know what it was tracking, but like it kept like moving on its own. And I figured it was like trying to track the ball or something, but I thought that was really cool. That like, things like that were automated. And then also, for everyone watching at home, there's all these like recaps that happen and like all of that stuff, which is definitely a subfield of its like on its own. And then also there's a lot of simulation stuff going on there during like the training process for the actual like people, athletes as well. Okay, we've got nonprofits. Yes, nonprofits is its own sector. So every single nonprofit out there that is trying to do good work has a website, has software that they are either creating or using to keep track of all the work that they do, the people they're serving, and the the supporters that they have. So that's definitely a subsector on its own. And the thing about this sector is that unfortunately, and it's I think the nature of the world we live in, but it can be improved. I think there's space for improvement, is that, a lot of nonprofits are not like, they don't have the capacity to hire developers full time, right? Because developers are expensive, and like the like when allocating, funding, the nonprofits are most likely going to allocate most of that to the people that they're serving, right? So within that, what you'll find is that a lot of nonprofit software is like, especially if it's like self-built for like their own purposes or even their websites, they can be really outdated. And sure, people can go, and even like an outdated website, like people can go and keep adding content, but like the code behind it, it can be outdated. It can be not secure because they don't really have someone there all the time who is monitoring for web security. And so like I feel like it's a sector that really needs I guess the world can do better to support the sector on their digital side of things. All right, security, science, fashion. Oh, fashion. So for security, I would say that that's kind of, I don't know if it would be a sector on its own. It's more like a role within the sectors, like perhaps, not too sure. Fashion industry. I think fashion industry, I know it is technically an industry on its own. Maybe under, okay, let me just put them here because I don't know how to classify them properly. They could be completely on their industries on their own. So fashion industry, thank you for that. That's something that I did not have on my list here. Okay. Hackers. Okay, hackers are not technically like an industry. It's more like people trying to crash or get access to data in some way. Car companies, yes. AI, yes. So AI, as of right now, I think I'll loop that under, because it's more like people are either creating it to sell or they are using it for one of these purposes. So I don't think I'd classify it as an industry on its own, at least not yet. Yeah, astronomy. That's awesome. Housing, yes, exactly. If any of you have ever used something like Rent Cafe or yes, PadMapper, I think it was called, to look for rental units, those are also examples of things in the housing industry that need software systems. Pharmacies, okay, yes, okay, that's a new one. Pharmacies, the pharmaceutical industry, yes, it kind of like the front end side where the pharmacist is giving something to the to the patient, is kind of like within healthcare. But in the background, like, how do we actually get all these drugs, right, that are useful? And that's kind of like a little bit of a bridge towards research, but there's a lot that goes on in the pharmaceutical industry that's beyond what we see directly, especially in the research and development of these products. So that's it's a huge we've all heard of like big pharma, huge place there. Identification, ooh, that one's interesting. I think ID, I'm not too sure, Charlene, what you were referring to there. I think for things like, your government ID, I think that would fall under like government. And if it's something like allowing you access to, like if you need to provide your ID to do something, I think that's more like on the authentication slash, like on the authentication side of like each of these, like the companies within these sectors. So I wouldn't classify that as its own industry. Construction, ooh, yes. So construction industry, definitely. I think I was thinking of it as like a bridge between real estate and manufacturing, but definitely construction industry too. You were doing that the other day with Nova Scotia. Okay, Nova Scotia, you can get, I'm assuming you're talking about like comparing Vancouver to houses that you can get elsewhere. Nova Scotia is like very, yep, you can get really good houses there for like less than a studio cost in Vancouver. It's wild. Aerospace and defense. Okay, that's a new one. Those are actually two industries, Najla. So I'm going to go ahead and open these up. Defense and aerospace. So the defense industry, we can think about, and I guess most of us don't, but we can think about, all the stuff that goes into keeping our countries, safe, and all the like the software, the tech that goes into the like monitoring of potential threats, as well as responding to them. And like the aerospace industry would be, either everything from like the actual creation of the craft, like the I was gonna say spacecraft, but that's its own thing. But the manufacturing of the aircraft, and also like I guess a link between those is kind of like the monitoring as well of like what am I trying to say here? Within like the planes, coordination, let's say airports, right? They have to coordinate between people, taking off, landing, things like that like they have to monitor their airspace as well. So that's a big one there. Energy, yes. So that's a big one. Let's open that up. Energy industry, anything from all of the stuff that goes into keeping, keeping our lights on. All of the, I guess you can loop utilities in here as well, like all of the companies that are serving, the heat, water, electricity, like all of that good stuff. They all need software that accurately, keeps track of who's using how much and sending out bills, making sure they're getting paid, so on and so forth. And I think I'm super simplifying the energy industry. I'm pretty sure it's a lot more complex than that. Environmental and sustainability companies. Yes, that is huge. So that, I don't think I actually have that here. I have, I guess I think I'll put that as a new one. That is really good. Thank you, Dashla. So mental, or I guess I'm not sure how to put that as industry, but there's a whole push, especially now, towards that, and there's a lot of work and investment going into the environment and taking care of that, and the way that we can update or create new software that can allow us to track and improve our interactions with the environment, of course. Digital arts, ooh. Okay, you know what? That I think would be its own. So arts, or just like the art industry in general, right? I know that like it is a massive space there. That let me just double check. Yep, one of these are not it. Like, who can guess what these are? Oh, you know what? Actually, I think I might need to open this one up actually, because we did talk about hotels at some point. So that was going, okay, architecture. Architecture, I think, let's put that under the real estate industry. I know it's kind of generalizing it, but yes. Yes, surveillance, I think let's put that under defense. Post office. Okay, so post office is import export. Yes. Okay, so I'll put these two together. Trade, cargo. Okay, yeah. So that's actually all of these suggestions go into the logistics industry, right? Everything from you being able to, like, yeah, sure, Amazon takes care of their side where you can go and pick a product and send it off, but the actual like physical transportation of that product to you is probably being done by like another company, right? Something like the postal office, or like ships that are bringing products over from one place to another, trade and cargo, all of that. We also have forestry here. So forestry, I think, kind of touches on the same concept here as farming, right? So yes, forestry, but also farming, agriculture. That's huge, right? We all eat food and all that food grows on farms. And farmers are, it's funny because a lot of it is actually automated, right? They use software that tells them things about their crops, things about the health of the crops, things about the weather, things about what to expect, things about, the nutrition in the ground, and whether they need to fertilize and things like that. So there's like a lot of software in the agriculture industry as well. What's this? You guys are doing, like, you opened up everything, but there's still one to go, and then let's go and have a late break. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, so meteorologists would probably go under environmental, which was a new section that I didn't have here. Nonprofits, political. So these ones I'll group under government and nonprofits, retail, law. Okay, perfect. Okay, yes, that is it. The legal industry. And we are done. Ocean marine archaeology. Okay, you guys uncovered everything. That is amazing. Yes, in the legal industry, we've got, all the like software in the background, making sure that our systems are actually, there and for the most part as fair as possible. And there's software that is making it possible to keep track of things on such a large scale. All right, so that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I'll keep this up during break. I know I actually have 2 more slides before like the next technically part was supposed to start, but I'm really glad that you guys were able to open up everything. We'll come back and do another for roles that developers play within these industries. So let's go for 5 minutes. I'll see you back at 9:21. Okay. Welcome back. Alrighty. If you could just, put up little thumbs up reactions so that I can see in my little participants list. 2, 4, okay. Oh, I thought it was gonna like bring you guys to the top when you put that up. Oh, okay, sweet. Okay, I don't think that's doing what I wanted it to. Sweet. All right, everyone in the chat. Thank you. Okay. All right. So now that we know who's actually hiring developers, and you can think about, your career on a much more broader, like in a much more broader sense. I just wanted to take a moment to do something similar, but for the roles that developers can take on. Right? And this is directly related to some of the stuff you learned this week. So again, in the chat, let's shout out some of the different things you've learned about this week, because each of these things that you learned about is kind of like its own role within there. So if you could just pop in there some of the areas. Okay, front end. That falls directly. Oh, no. Okay, one sec. I need to do it like this, I think. Okay, so front end UI UX, perfect. So that is the first one. UI UX is a role on its own. So if you are, interested in making beautiful designs, making sure that users are happy with the interactions, they're not frustrated, then that would be the kind of role that you could look into as a career path. Let's see here. History. Yes, but I think let's wait for a few more things here. HTTP protocols. Yes, so that goes under networking. So that's awesome. You guys learned about networking and how that happens, how that front end actually communicates with the back end, and anything gets done. So that's great. You learned about mobile apps. Okay, yes. So mobile development is its own ball game. So I'm actually gonna do this thing again here. So for areas that are not included in my recap list here, so mobile development, the good news is that yes, we are going to be focusing on website development, like for you access it through a browser. We'll be teaching you a framework called React, which you can very easily, so using React Native, you can easily transition into mobile development as well. And also a lot of the design principles, the data storage, the security principles, they all hold regardless of what device you are creating for. QA, yes. Okay, quality assurance. That is a career on its own. Anyone who is, if you like the process of, trying to break things and like to figure out where they break and then fixing them, QA is for you. So basically, your job as someone who works in QA would be to make sure that the software is thoroughly tested before it's ever released. So you would be thinking about all the different ways that it can be misused or broken, and make sure that you account for all of those in the tests, but also to actually try to break it yourself and see what is it working. All right, then we have a bunch of responses saying databases. So databases, yes, exactly. So databases, to be the person whose job it is to manage the database, but also to make sure. So this is okay, I put that in a different category, but to manage the databases, to make sure that the data is sound and is not like not corrupting. That's a whole role there. We've got algorithms. Yes, exactly. So algorithms are a big part. So your role could be more specific towards figuring out the processes that need to happen to make something work. So, while your colleague is focusing on, let's say, implementation, you might be taking on more of the engineering role in a way where you are trying to figure out how do I actually make, you know, this thing that I want to happen. What I want to happen, let's say, I mean, by now people have figured out, you know, placing orders pretty easily. Well, not easily, but like at some point in history, somebody had to sit there and be like, how do I make sure that, you know, when someone presses a button, they are going to be able to actually order something physically. So that process of like, how is this going to happen? That could be a bigger part of your role. Game developer. Okay, I don't think I have that here. Okay, yes, game development is definitely it's kind of like its own subfield, because even though you are technically looking at like the UI and interacting with it, and then on the background it's just someone trying to, you know, decide what happens when the character, you know, goes up and tries to do something. There's also like, I'd say the actual programming involved is a little bit different, just because it is so visual and you're kind of working more on the scale of like characters and objects versus, you know, data, just data. So like if you're trying to represent an entire game as like, you know, like what am I trying to say here, as numbers, even though, you know, on the back end, like of course the computer is doing that, but it's so much easier for developers to think about like a character moving to the end of the room or finding the way out, right, than it is to work on that low level there. So my understanding at least is that within game development, again, within there's a bunch of roles, but definitely there's a whole bunch about like the actual sprites, they're called, the objects that are involved in the game universe. Okay, you learned about inspecting. That's awesome. I think my title here is, it should be changed, because yes, you learned about a lot more than just these things. Definitely. So you learned about inspecting things. I'm actually going to loop that into the okay, you know what, that's going to go on its own, because I was going to say to UI UX, but then I realized, no, you can inspect a lot more than just how things look. Like you can inspect your networks, you can inspect your interactivity and all of that. So I'll just put that up here as something else you learned about, but I don't think it's like a role on its own per se. Oh no. Oh no. Uh-oh. Someone signed me out. That's not good. Am I still here? That is weird. I just got like a little pop-up saying I was signed out. Give me 1 second. I just need to make sure no one's trying to log into the same account. Sorry about that. Where? Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so let's keep going here. AR, VR, perfect. So that's kind of actually very similar to game development, surprisingly. But I'll just put that in here as well. AR, VR. Okay, you learned about the website design. I'll loop that into UI UX. Cloud engineering. Okay, yes, you learned about servers and the cloud, right? What does it actually mean to hold on to you know, the requests that you're getting, and you know, the cloud itself is a whole ball game out there. Is not UI UX included in full stack? Yes, exactly. So all of these areas are technically part of what it means to be a full stack developer. So the reason why I'm breaking it down like this is because even though like you could be a full stack developer, I mean, you guys will be trained to be full stack developers. The thing is, and you'll learn about this in the next lecture today, most software development happens like in teams, and within the team, like sometimes and most of the time, people specialize in a certain sub area of full stack. So it's really important to understand and be able to develop on the full stack. But unless you're like in a small company or like working for a nonprofit, you're probably not going to be doing all the development yourself, like the front and the back and all the databases and all of that. You'll probably be focusing on a subset where that's kind of your job, and then you are working with your teammates who are focusing on their specialities. So these are kind of like the specialities within the realm. You learned about ChatGPT. Yep. You learned about AI a little bit, briefly. AI is a whole area on its own, and again, it's still up and coming. There's more and more that is being developed and created, and one of the things that you'll learn about in the next lecture is something called an API, which is basically like a method of using data information software that like other people wrote. So stay tuned, that's coming up. But like someone wrote ChatGPT here, you can actually integrate AI systems into your programs very easily because of these things called APIs. You'll learn more about that later. User table, yeah, so that would fall under databases. Code, blockchain. Okay, blockchain. Blockchain was one that you learned about. It's a whole up and coming field on its own as well. We're not gonna delve too deep into like how to create blocks and transactions within this course, mostly because it's a little bit like it's its own subfield. In the same way that for AI, like we'll learn what they are and like how to utilize them for your full stack applications, but not like for AI, for example. We're not going to be teaching you how to like go and make your own models and make your own ChatGPT. That's kind of beyond the frame of this course. At least we are looking into like potentially having like an AI course on its own in the future, but perhaps later. Wireframes, yes, that's a process of the UI UX. We've got programming versus coding. That is awesome. I love that. I'm gonna just actually put that up here because I think that is a very important thing that for us to keep in mind throughout the course. Data, databases, SEO. Okay. I don't think that really loops under any of these. So yes, SEO is kind of like its own categories. You learned about, once you have your website, like how do you actually make sure people come and see it. Okay, let's make this other box here and okay. Okay, DevOps. DevOps. Okay, I think that's kind of like its own. It's a little bit of a bridge between like the development stuff here and like the operations stuff here. I mean, that's what DevOps is, but it's kind of like its own category. So yes, perfect. Crypto debugging. Yes, debugging is going to go. Let me just loop it into this similar category because it's kind of like that whole like what does it actually mean to develop something. Reading code, viruses. Okay, so we've got viruses here. No, we don't have viruses here. But one of the answers was that you learned about viruses. So that there we go. And right after that, we've got security. So yes, that's a sub area itself as well. So within a software team, someone might be focusing on making sure that maybe even like pretending to be a hacker and like trying to hack the company. It's called ethical hacking. Actually, it's a thing where a person is hired, literally their job is to try and hack into the system so that if they get in, the company knows, oh, okay, that's a vulnerability, we need to fix that. And the government does this for sure, and regular companies as well. So yeah, you could be hired to be a hacker. But ethical hacking, guys, ethical hacking. We've got, okay, this is awesome. DevOps, domains, HTML. So HTML, I'll loop that into like the UI UX a little bit, at least for now, or maybe even like this part here. Yes, transactions, decentralized systems, coding, pawning. Okay, yeah, that would be under security. You learned about, okay, perfect. Two of you right after each other, static versus dynamic websites. Yes, definitely. You learned about the kinds of websites that we have. I'd say that's kind of UX, like the experience of the user, but yes, definitely. Authorization and authentication, perfect. I'll put that under security. High and low level languages. Oh, okay, I'll put that on its own just because it's not really like a role, but it is like an important thing that you guys learned this week that is important to, kind of reflect on. So programming, I guess programming languages, and like how they relate to each other. Creating algorithms, converting them to code. Awesome. Let me just scroll through these because I think, again, I am 10 minutes behind on reading these. So sorry about that. This is awesome. So relational and non-relational databases, that's awesome. Compilers, debugging. Ooh, yes. Actually programming those compilers is like a thing of its own. Okay, let's go. Compilers. API development. Did we talk about API development? Maybe briefly. But let me just pop that in here. APIs. It's somewhat related to the servers and cloud, because at the end of the day, and you'll see this in the second lecture of today, the APIs are kind of, it's just a company saying, I'm gonna be a server that is going to, allow you to come request information from me, and then I'll give it back. So it is technically like a server, but definitely APIs. You'll see some really cool examples too today about the power at your fingertips once you learn about this stuff. Cookies, sessions, perfect. I'll put that under security. Security and servers. Inputs and outputs, primary key and foreign key, perfect. So inputs and outputs, I'd say that would be similar to the algorithms, where you're kind of thinking through, what kind of information you have access to and what you need to do with that. And then primary and foreign key was databases. That's awesome. IDEs. Okay. IDEs, let me stick that beside these because this is all related to like actually the physical act of programming. Hardware versus software, that is perfect. Protocols, okay, perfect. Operating systems, okay, yes, that's this box. So Christian, you open that up. So we've got operating systems. That's basically, whatever it is that is making your computer run, from just being like a box of like electric components to an actual functioning machine that you're watching this lecture on today. So creating those operating systems, making sure that they're good. Every few months we get like an update. If you're on Windows, you get like a Windows update, and if you're on like a Mac, you get like the Mac update. Sorry, all of a sudden. Okay. So operating system development and maintenance is an area of its own there. We have a question here. What are compilers again? So compilers are what, or I guess I'll put compilers or interpreters, depending on the kind of language you're using. They are what's turning your code that you write as a human into something that the computer understands in like the zeros and ones that we talked about, I think it was on Wednesday. It's the interpreter compiler making that conversion in between. Okay, you learned about domains, so that would be under deployment. I'll put that under DevOps, deployment, or I guess it's in servers and cloud really. When you deploy your work so that it's actually available for people to see and interact with. Okay, so I made it to the end of all the comments. And thank you guys so much for that. You uncovered everything and added so much more. So thank you. And I put this here because I think there might have been some stuff that, we didn't cover actually this week, because there was just so much stuff that's coming up later on. But also because technologies are always changing. And so, areas that you can specialize in will probably change over time as well. And so definitely, be on the lookout. And, one of the, I think, advantages to taking a course like this is that you have to learn a lot in a very short period of time. That kind of trains your brain on how to learn. And that makes you like really good at, learning on the job, which is like pretty much what everyone does all the time, because technologies are always changing. Okay. So how do you choose between these, right? Because there's a lot of different areas, there's different sectors. And I would say, again, in the beginning, I did mention there's different reasons why people pick certain careers, but for development, I would say the biggest or the biggest driver is going to be to let, what you're curious or interested about to guide you. Because if you are, interested in what you are working on, it'll probably be a lot more it'll be a lot easier for you to dive deep and really, create projects that stand out remarkably, create, contributions, be able to, read documentation for hours and hours, trying to debug a small issue without getting super frustrated because you know that you really want this application to work. And I will say, we mentioned this, I think it was on day one, where like programming does take a lot of patience. You'll see that as soon as we start getting into the details. But even now, like from what you've seen today, if there's an area that you're kind of leaning more towards, maybe you can do some research on that over the weekend and see what are some examples of like people or jobs that are like actually out there. What kind of things do these people work on? There's got to be what's it called, informational like interviews online, like kind of just like on YouTube, people talking about their jobs. There's always videos like that, kind of explaining what they actually do on a day-to-day basis, so that you can learn a little bit more about that. And as we get on further in the course, we're actually going to be providing spaces or helping you with the process of like performing those informational interviews yourself, as in reaching out to people, and you will have to do this yourself, but we'll provide you with the support in terms of making sure you're reaching out right and things like that if you want that kind of support. But kind of reaching out to people and asking about their jobs, grabbing coffee with someone who's actually working your dream job and asking them how did they land that job, and what kind of stuff did they do on a daily basis. So we'll provide spaces for that as well. Okay, so we finally made it to the end of the first part. So I'm running way behind schedule. And let me just quickly take a look at what I was planning to cover in the next section, because we only have about 15 minutes to do that, and I want to focus on like what's key. Lecture 9. Okay, let me just take a look at that real quick. Oh, you know what? I think we can cover it. Okay, it's just 4 slides. Okay. I think, well, it'll be covered on a much more higher level than I wanted to, but that's okay, because we can always come back to it in the future, just like we are doing with a lot of stuff. Is it possible to be a professional full stack developer? I feel trying to be a professional in multiple areas will leave the person with a basic knowledge of everything, not having the time to get deep knowledge of specific aspects. That's a really good point. But it is possible. Someone does need to take that high level view. Sure, you can have your teammates that are maybe doing the implementation, or your like usually, so the way and I think, in the second part, you'll get a better picture of this, of how like software teams work. But typically there's like a product manager or a software engineer who is more senior in a way, or specialized in the full stack process, who is helping to coordinate people who are specialized in specific aspects. And so, if you are really interested in the way that things work together, because you really want, like that's what intrigues you, then, by all means, like the full stack itself would be your career like option for that. And then you can always have like someone, a teammate who is like specialized in like the front end, and like someone specialized in back end, and you can help to coordinate like who's doing what, and help out on both ends. But it is like, that's a really good point about like, it's hard to really become really good at something if you're trying to get good at everything. But the good thing is that there is space for generalists as well, who like want to take that bigger picture approach. All right, so in the next like few minutes, just let's quickly go through the next few slides. Again, I'll come back to this, or we can come back to this again later. We have plenty of time together throughout the course, but just to give you a sense of what it actually takes to land a job, right? If you figured out what you want to work as, you figured out what companies you want to work with, what does it actually take? So we've got skills as a suggestion, but how do you actually portray to the potential employer that you have the skills that they need? So that's really what this section is meant to be about. So we've got skills, knowledge, experience, education. Okay, awesome. So these are all similar, and definitely that is what it takes. So how do you actually portray that is what is covered here, at least. So, we all know about the resume. We know that, you need to have your resume, you need to put in your experience on there, and you are good to go, right? But that's not really what gets you the job, right? That's what gets your foot in the door. That's what gets you, like, someone looks at it and goes, let me see what else this person has, right? Let me find out more about this person, instead of kind of like taking your resume and being like, meh, right? We never want to be that person. And in this course, like we'll have resume workshops to make sure that you are portraying your skills in the best way possible. But we want to make sure that the resume does stand out, but underneath that, there has to be a lot of other things that are really going to help you get the job at the end. Oh, one sec, we have a question here. I know this may be irrelevant, but are there any entry-level jobs in Canada for software engineers? You've been trying for the past year, and all you see, okay, is minimum 5 years of experience. Of course, I have experience as a Salesforce developer, but just curious to know. Okay, so that's a really good point. It's kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen like the meme that's like, you need experience to get a job, but to get experience, you need a job. And then it's like this cycle. It's like an endless, really bad example, like cycle that we have in the workforce right now. The paradox, exactly. The good news, though, is that typically, you can put in, oh yeah, Canadians, honestly, okay. This one was, is kind of, I believe the government is trying to work on that. Like I know, at least in engineering in general, they have stepped away from like the whole Canadian experience, I guess, language and requirements, and they're kind of like, if you have experience anywhere, we'll still consider it. I can only speak for the engineering field. I know it's more technical and harder in like other fields like medicine and legal stuff. Within software, though, the good news is that, yeah, like you have the skills, you have the project. If you had experience anywhere else, it will carry over. But oh yeah, Alim has answered the, experience question. So that's exactly it. So I'm just going to read it out so that everyone hears it. So usually when the recruiters make the requirements, like that with 5 years for entry level, typically, so you should still apply anyway. Typically, they're like, when they're saying that, it's typically to try and, like, so there's two aspects. One is it's actually a role that needs someone with more experience. The other is if it's meant to be an entry-level role. If it is meant to be an entry-level role, disregard that, apply anyway. We're going to help you throughout the course to build out your portfolio, which is actually one of these items in the iceberg that is going to showcase to the the employers that you have the skills that they are looking for. So that's really what they want, right? They want someone who can get the job done in the least amount of time possible. That and also, I mean, nowadays we have this stuff about cultural fit. It's like someone who can communicate well with the team and work together to solve problems. So as long as you have these, like, the employer is happy to hire you. Like, that's about it. So definitely, if it's like an entry-level job, apply. And perhaps like another thing that could be happening is that you can tailor your experiences to be job specific, even if it was a little bit different. So for example, if you did some, I don't know, if you worked another job, I know a lot of you are also like career transitioning right now, and that's why you're taking this course. If you worked another job, there's deliverables that you had, or like there's a history of work that you did that might not have been software, but it is work, right? Work that is directly related to those aspects, the more soft skill aspects of working on a team and all of that. So like, it's complicated, we'll work with you as well, like throughout the course, especially. And when I say throughout the course, like it's going to be more focused in the last 2 months, February and March, where we're really going to help you like tailor your resumes, tailor your LinkedIn, which is that second, it's right under tailor your LinkedIn, make sure that you are building up your online presence of your job, your skill set. Like, how does someone know you actually have the skills that you claim to have? That would be within your portfolio, within your GitHub account, which we'll talk about in the second lecture today. How do you actually showcase that? And interview skills as well. So once you do get your foot in the door, someone does look at your resume and then they reach out and they say, hey, come in for interview. Within the tech industry, interviewing is like, it's its own ball game. It's typically, I think there's like 3 to 5 different steps depending on the company, where they are checking your soft skills, checking your the actual hard skills, your algorithmic thinking, your project making. There's like different stages and you kind of move through them. So like the first layer is like your resume. They think that's good. Okay, part 2 is they actually go and like check your portfolio and all of that. Part 3 is they invite you for an interview, but this is like typically the first one is like informational, casual, they're like trying to get a sense of who you are. And then after that they say, these ones are either 2 separate interviews or in the same interview. Then they say, okay, well, can you code? Like, can you program? Not code. Can you come up with algorithms to solve a problem? So we'll talk about LeetCode, which is a platform that helps you practice for those coding interviews. But they ask hard questions, so you have to think on the spot. Think on the spot, provide an answer on the spot, and not just an answer, but like code the answer on the spot. So there's a lot that goes into that. And then after that, some companies also ask you to then take like kind of like a take-home project. They're like, within the next 2 days, build a project that does this. Now, because you'll be getting practice building your portfolio, which is building your projects from scratch throughout the full stack, you'll be ready to make those projects when you're asked for the, if and when you're actually asked to build a project as part of the interview. And then finally, after that, if they're happy with everything, then you get the handshake and you've got the job, right? So it's a long process. And, I've heard that like people, like it can take months to, curate, because it's different aspects, right? To curate your portfolio, which means you have to build full stack projects from the bottom up, at least 2 to 3 deep projects. And then you also have to prepare for interviewing with those coding interviews, which is a whole different, a whole different thing to prepare for. We'll walk you through the preparation steps, but again, like it really just depends on practice. It is a skill. So like the more you practice, the better you'll get. It's a simple formula. It's just that it takes time, it takes effort, and it can be frustrating because it's a lot, right? But it's all going to pay off because, as we all know, we're all here, we talked about all the different sectors. Tech it's everywhere, right? And if you want to, as we go like even further into the future, like it's going to get more and more techified, right? And also the jobs pay well for the most part, and there's benefits to being able to get those jobs. And so we'll do our best to train you in the process that it will take to land a job, but how long it will take to actually land that job will depend on like how much time you put into your portfolio and how much time you put into practice for the interviews. So just putting that out there. Yeah, so Tasneem, provided a good, kind of reality check. Applying for the job is almost like a full-time job itself, because you have so much that you need to prepare for, but also then you have to research companies, you have to, reach out to the recruiters, and you have to do this big thing called networking, right? I know that sounds scary. Think about networking as just connecting with people, and it makes things so much easier because all you're really doing when you're networking is your goal is to find like to connect with people, because companies are just people at the end, right? It's just people doing good work and creating software that you want to join their teams for. So really, when you're networking, you're really just trying to find out who the people are who are working on the projects that you want to be working on, and learning from them, learning how maybe there's gaps in your portfolio or your skill set that you need to learn a little bit more to qualify for the specific role that you're looking for. So like reaching out to these people, talking to them, that's like it's a whole thing on its own. But again, like we'll be learning about like best practices and like how do you do that throughout this course. But again, it's also something, the more you network, the more people you meet, the more you learn about the industry, about the jobs, the easier it's going to get to reach out to more people. And then, the people you talk to or the people you make friends with who are working at these companies that you want to work at, they might provide referrals to, either their hiring managers at the companies and say, hey, I've got a buddy who, is looking for a job. Can you interview him? Or they might tell you like, hey, you know what, here's this other person that you can talk to learn about their job. I think it's something that's more, likely something that you like. So that's a big part. There's this whole statistic out there that like 70% of all jobs are never posted because they're like either they're never posted or they're hired by referral. So getting a referral from someone on the inside who's saying, like, let's say they've been at the company for like 2, 3, 5 years, and even more, right? And like, they know the job at hand and they've seen your portfolio, they've seen what you can do. And they're telling the hiring manager, hey, I know that this person can do, this job that has an opening right now. Can you, check on them, like to have an interview and let them in. So that kind of referral is super, super key. And it's a big part of it. Again, today, we're going to be focusing on, getting you guys set up on LinkedIn because, we are in the digital age. A lot of the networking does happen virtually, at least in the beginning, to reach out to people. So I think, let me just, I was planning to walk through like, resume examples and like LinkedIn examples and things like that, but I think we'll save that for another day. Typically the resume is like 1 page. The LinkedIn has to be, like focused on like the like kind of like the results of like what you did so far in your life and career. Your GitHub, you'll see GitHub in the next lecture today. GitHub and like what makes a project good. And again, we'll come back to interviewing skills and those coding interviews later on. Okay, so moving on into lab, and I think I have this again because I was going to provide examples for each, but we don't have time for that. Let's take a 10-minute break because that is the end of here. Oh, I think one sec before we get there, I think I missed some of these things in the chat here. Did not get any responses. Okay, so if you've applied for jobs and you didn't get any responses, yeah, there's a bunch of things that could be happening. So, one, so I mean, it sucks to think about, but one of the things that does happen in a lot of these companies because they get so many applications is that there's actually like an AI that is filtering through resumes, and like let's say 2,000 people apply, it's gonna like put 20 people's resumes actually in the recruiter's inbox. So that's a big hurdle that, like, if your resume is not optimized, can be a problem. On top of that, if your resume does end up with the recruiter, the actual like human, then they'd be looking for your portfolio and looking for your GitHub accounts, looking at your if you are active within your professional network on LinkedIn, right? Things like that. They'll be looking at that before they even reach out to you. And once they're happy with all of that, then they'll come reach out to you, and then you have to get through the whole hurdle of the interview, which is typically a multiple stage process. This is not to scare you. This is to let you know like what goes on in the background when you click that apply job button. And again, a lot of those, so internally for the companies, let's say there's 2 positions open or even 1 position open, right? And now they've got 20 resumes on their desk. And they're like, okay, all these people have similar experience, their portfolios look kind of the same. Who do I actually interview? Okay, so at that point, if there's an internal referral, because one of these, or maybe even 5 of these candidates, let's say 5 of these candidates actually reached out to people who are working there, talked to them, they know actually about the company's internal processes because they've talked to people who work there. So then the person on the team tells the interviewer like, hey, these 5 people, I talked to them, they seem pretty cool, can you interview them? So then the actual recruiter might say, okay, great, you just made my life easier. From these 20 people, I'll reach out to these 5 people. And then from those 5 people, the one who makes it through the interview process the best is probably going to be the one who's hired. So it's like it's a layered system. But what really, like, I put this in nice, I mean, I don't think I made it big enough, but the networking aspect is huge. More so today in the world of AI, because everyone is able to create their resumes using AI, and they're able to build their LinkedIns with AI, and they can even like, use AI to make their portfolio better and all of that. What they can't AIify is the professional networks that you have. Okay, the people that who work at these companies, the people that who are doing these kind of jobs, that's stuff that isn't something that can just be like cooked up in an hour, right? With the help of AI. That stuff you need to work on from today. You have to work on it slowly but surely, reaching out to people, talking to them. And that'll be like a big part of the course. Like from today, we're going to get you set up on LinkedIn. You're going to start reaching out to people. First, starting small, you'll reach out to us, your 4 instructors. And from there, you'll kind of build out your network, because LinkedIn is kind of funky in a way where it only shows you people who are within your network. Either you're directly connected to them, or you are connected to someone who is connected to them, or you're connected to someone who's connected to someone who's connected to them, and that's all you can see. So I'm hoping that, once you tap into the 4 instructor networks in that way, because once you connect with us, you'll be connected with someone who is connected to a bunch of other people. At least you'll be able to see who else is, on LinkedIn. So it's a process, but that's where you'll start today for your lab. So what we want you to do, all right, let's see here. Oh, you have no idea what GitHub is? Yes. So that's because we'll be talking about that in the next lecture today. Like after, so one quick announcement, if you haven't seen it already, because it is Friday, we are going to have the second lecture a little bit later than usual. So it's going to be during what used to be our lab time, 3 to 5 p.m. Okay, so that's just making that clear there. Yes. So yeah, Alim, thank you for providing that. Yeah, your resume has to be optimized for that. If you already have an account for LinkedIn, that's fine. Just log into the account and find the instructors, connect with them, make sure that you provide like the connection message, because we want to get you guys into the habit of writing these messages. Like when you're reaching out to someone cold, they don't know you, right? You need to provide information about, like, in a very short space, provide information about who you are and why you're connecting with them. And typically that involves, looking at their LinkedIn, looking at, what they're doing, what cool things you want to learn about from them. So when you're sending out those connection invites as part of the lab, please make sure that you are, including that. And yes, you can refurbish your existing profile. That is perfect. Okay, so I went on way longer. You are entitled to a 10-minute break. I'll put up the lab page here. And if you have any trouble with this, do let us know. But again, 10-minute break. And then when you come back at, I guess, 18 past, we'll open up breakout rooms if you want to talk to others as they navigate LinkedIn as well. Yeah, so I'll see you back in about 10. All right, everyone. As you're coming back here, I just wanted to quickly show you some of these things that are mentioned for lab, just in case you have never used LinkedIn before. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna go into 1 sec. Let me go like this. Let me just reshare my screen here so that I can show you the LinkedIn here. Okay, so what we're looking at, and actually while we're at it, I just had these other two tabs open just to give you like a glimpse at what some of the things that I was mentioning. So when I was saying, you know, preparing for interviews and how it's like coding challenges, one of the ways that you can practice for those is using this website called LeetCode. And basically what this website helps you do is it gives you examples of the kinds of questions that they ask in interviews so that you can practice. But we'll get to that later on in the course. When I was saying portfolio, basically this is a portfolio of a prior student who basically put together a website. This is launched through GitHub, and you'll see GitHub again in the second part of the lecture. But basically it's a website that has a collection of all his projects. And then basically we can, you know, if I was someone who is, you know, on the hiring team, I could come to his portfolio and say, okay, well, that's his resume. Okay, whoa, okay, I gotta let him know that that's not working. But, you know, we can take a look at the projects, and let's say we click on demo, and it would basically load up the, okay, something might be off about his hosting site. I'll let him know, but basically what happens, you know, maybe this one might work. Okay, so this would be like an example. This one's not loading up, but this one is. You know, you can easily go and, like, as an employee, you can click around, see what kind of projects this person can build. So here we've got like a you know, chess club kind of website, or here we've got a website about like I guess business choices, things like that. So that would be an example of like a website. And yes, I did get permission to share this, so I'm not gonna just randomly share people's stuff if they have not agreed to it. And then LinkedIn is what we're focusing on for today's lab. For the links to, 1 sec, let me grab those this over as well. So Canvas. Okay, so in Canvas, you guys have, you know, you've been using Canvas all week. You've been using it all week, but within there, so if you go down to Friday assignments, inside of there, we have the links for the 4 instructors that you have for this course. So if you go ahead and like click on one of them, it'll take you directly to their profile. And the reason for that is because if you create a new LinkedIn account, again, it might not show you the person if you are looking them up by name. It might just wait for you to, you know, have them within your network before you can actually see them. So what do I mean by that? If under the search bar, if I like look for someone, and you can see the instructors are here. But you know, would anyone, like, I don't know, volunteer your account that I can use like as an example? I don't want to like pick on someone, so if someone could just like pop in the chat if they're okay with me using it in this live demo kind of example. Okay, awesome. Okay, so Aleem, I've already connected, but okay, let me try that. Okay, so I'll go Aleem. And when I put this in here, you'll see that there's actually a lot of Aleems, right? But I only see, so here I see Aleem connected first. So he's a first degree connection because we've connected on LinkedIn already. With people who are second degree connections, you cannot send them a direct message directly. You can only, like, you can send connection requests, but you can't message them. What do I mean? So for Aleem, if I come here, I have a button that says message, right? I can also go to his profile and I can click on message and send him a message. Okay, and that's fine. However, whoops, okay, I just clicked on a random person by mistake. But okay, with this random person, I actually have no idea who this is. I hope they're okay with me. Okay, you know what? Let me go back and just click on one of these volunteered ones. Thank you guys. So Najla here is currently a 3rd degree connection because we have not connected directly yet. So I can see her whole profile, whatever she has made accessible to people who are not directly connected. But then if I click message, it says that I need to get a premium account to actually message her directly. And even with premium accounts, LinkedIn is very restrictive in a way. I believe they have tiers for like how many people you can message. So like on the lowest tier, it's about like 5 people you can directly message like this. For, I guess higher paid ones is like 10, and then 50 is their maximum. So like you can, it's a little bit limiting because what they really want you to do actually is grow your network. So how can I contact Najla if I can't message her, right? So what I can do, so there's message follow, but I can also go to more and click on connect. So if I do that, we get this pop-up here and it says I can customize my invitation. Now, if Najla knows me, if, let's say we're working together, if she sees my name, she knows who I am, that's fine. I don't need to, add a note. But if it's someone you are reaching out to from scratch, there is this little box here where you can personalize your invitation. So if you, let's see if we'll get my message. Yeah, let's do that. So I will be putting in a message here. And what I want you guys to do for today, for today's lab, when you're sending these messages to, to us as your instructors as part of the lab, or, as people are posting their LinkedIns, you can go connect with them as well, because, all of you are going to be building your network together. Whoever connects with someone new, like basically expands the network for everyone else. So this is going to be a really great exercise. As part of the lab exercise, you'll be posting your LinkedIns on Slack. So there, you can see everyone else's, connect with each other. So start the message off with CIC just so that everyone knows that you are, someone in this cohort. And let me go, hi, Najla. Testing this out. Okay. And typically, so for the lab, we also want you to get into the habit of actually looking at someone's profile and finding something on there that you find interesting. Like, why do you want to connect with this person? Maybe they have the kind of job you want, or maybe they're working at a company that you like, or maybe they used to work somewhere that you want to work, so on and so forth. So typically the best practice is to go through the profile, see something that you can talk to them about, or if you met them at a networking event, or you just ran into them in an elevator, and we'll talk about elevator pitches as well, as it is part of the lab. But you ran into somebody, in your connection message, you would most likely mention where you met them and why you are trying to connect. Okay, so here, let me go ahead and click send. So at that point, it says that I have sent an invitation request to Najla. Sent an invitation request to Najla. So on her end, what she should see at this point is a red pop-up over here. And right now, see, I can see, oh, nothing so far. Okay, let's see how long that takes. So right now I can see there's 3, and I assume that these are some people who have started on the lab. So let me click on that. All right, so I see that 2 people have sent with CIC connection requests, and 1 person has connected, but I don't know at the moment if they are part of our cohort or not. I would have to go on and check. Okay, so I'll come back and respond to these later. But if you are trying to grow your network, someone has tried to connect with you, you can click on accept, and that will allow you to accept that invitation. Okay, what was the other thing? There was, setting up your profile. So for that, okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know about that. Alrighty, whoops, doodles, what did I do? No, this needs to go back. Okay, all right, so setting up your education and work. For that, you can go to your little face over here, or just click on your face over here. There we go. Nice. Alrighty, so let me close that off. We can go to our profile, and in your profile, you'll be able to see, how many connections you have, and take the time, over the weekend to, set up your pictures. Mine here is like a brain connected to a machine because for the most part, that's what I enjoy. That's what I do. And not connecting machines to brains. It's like more like the human machine connections in terms of brain computer interfaces. So that's why I picked a picture like this. But and there's like color coding going on. We can talk about in the future and about how to make it look good so that when someone lands on your page, they can see what they need to know about you in a single glance. This here's the header. It's what people see when they're seeing your name just on the side. So here's some people that I'm connected with, and it's their name and a brief description of who they are. So that header is really important because we don't see the whole header and we don't see the whole profile, but we get a glimpse at who they are, right? And so you have to pick your headers very carefully there. And then down here, there's also an about section. So mine is a collection of, things that I enjoy, but typically people put information about, brief information about their work. Mine's a bit of a atypical scenario. So don't, it's not meant to be a model example. It's just what my profile looks like right now. And I'm still, of course, myself also working on optimizing it. But the about section is where you can post like a high level overview of like who you are and what you do and why people should connect with you if they come across your page. Also, if you're actively looking for a job, the about page, like you can put that in there, like what kind of position you're looking for. I believe there's like an open to work kind of button somewhere, but I've never actually turned it on, so I don't know where it is. If someone does, please go on ahead. 500 connections, wow. Thank you. But you can always check like your total connections by going to my network as well. The my network button, it shows you like how many you actually have. It looks like I use ChatGPT. You know what? It's so like it's funny because like with the way GPT writes now, like when it provides these kind of things, it's becoming harder and harder to differentiate, right? And it's gonna be, I feel like, more and more of a problem to do. But at the same time, it's also not like, I feel like over time people are gonna realize that like it's okay that things are written. So that was actually a really good guess, because what I did for this is actually I did use GPT. So what I did was I put in information. I was like, I want to somehow capture all of this information in and about, in a way that is concise, and and ever since, like, I've been adding to it. So you were able to notice a GPT-fied about section. Nice. I just realized my camera was not on, but I gave you like a little thumbs up. So yes, but ideally, I think having something that, as long as you're conveying information about like who you are, why people should connect, it's good. Again, I need to optimize my own LinkedIn, to be honest, because I'm looking at this and at first glance, I'm like, okay, like I need to, add metrics, because I don't have any metrics on here. What do I mean by that? When you're adding experience, you can click on the little pen. It'll let you go in there and make edits, or you can add on a new, position that you've held or experience that you have. And we'll talk about optimization in the future. But basically, for now, I think for the weekend, just put up anything that maybe, some of you are, career switching, some of you have had previous jobs. Please go on ahead and just add that, and we'll talk about optimization in the future. Okay, so then we've got an education section. If you have projects, if you volunteered anywhere, skills, so on and so forth. So just fill in as much as you can. On the right-hand side is your public profile URL. So for that, it's very handy to have it be the same URL as like what you use on your other handles. So mine is like Hafsa Zahid, just so that it's nice and concise when you post it places. It's literally just your name. Okay, so I think that's mostly it. Your header, your experiences, connect with your instructors. Make sure that you include a connection message. And then you're going to make a list of dream jobs. Try to find people who work there. If you start to get, we'll try to be accepting your requests so that you can explore our, like the networks during lab. But if you do like have connections, like try to find people who are working in the companies that you work for. So that's kind of what I meant by like social media here. I think I could have clarified that. The last piece is an elevator pitch. So it's I mentioned you might run into someone randomly and they ask, what do you do? What's your 30-second answer to that? So again, we'll talk about making it like a good answer later. I just want you to put together like a 30-second introduction and post that as your answer. Okay, so that's the job for today. You're going to be posting your LinkedIn profile to Slack. You're going to connect with the instructors, and you're also going to submit the elevator pitch and your networking plan for the people that you find. I hope that's all clear. If there's any questions, let me know. Is it okay if you already connected with the instructors? Yeah, that's fine. Just for whoever you haven't connected with yet, like send that connection request as well. Sorry, the message. Mostly just to, get you guys to get into the habit of, sending a message with the request, but also, the process of sending that request, like you actually find something on the profile that you want to connect about. What do you mean by networking plan? It's kind of like you find people who, are either doing the jobs that you want to do or working at the companies that you want to, and just think about like, would you just send them an invitation on LinkedIn, or would you maybe like what could you do to get to know that person? This kind of like it's a bit of a vague question, but like let's say you like pull up the profile of like, I don't know, I was gonna say the Meta CEO, which is like Zuckerberg, and then you're like, okay, how would I connect with this person? And that's kind of like an extreme example, but like you can't just go in there and be like, hey, let's be friends, right? Like you have to, it's like, what would the process be to get yourself into this person's network is kind of what I'm talking about there. Okay, let me just go up here. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. If you have an account, so no need to have a GoDaddy website. Oh, okay. So to answer that, Najla from earlier, the GoDaddy, like the website that we talked about before, that one. So we're gonna be using the free URLs and stuff. So for example, when you're building your portfolio, there's a way to get a URL that goes .github.io that lets you put up your portfolio like that, and that's fine. It's more like if you want to have like a unique URL, then you need to buy a domain. But usually there's ways to get around it, but it'll have the name of like the hosting site on there as well. Okay, let me just see here. Let's see. Okay. I don't know how to post our projects on LinkedIn. I think so your projects themselves, like your code and all, are going to be on your GitHub. Your LinkedIn's going to be like a funnel to your GitHub more so. And then you can like write about your projects, but I don't think you can actually like upload your projects themselves there. All right, so I think that's the Open to Work badge should be in your personal settings on your profile. Oh, okay, thank you for that. So the thing about the Open to Work badge is that if you put that on, then when recruiters are like, let's say they type in their search bar, they're like, I'm looking for a software developer. If you're open to work, like it'll show you in their like list of people who are open to work, and they can contact easier. It's not a guess, you did the same and it looks similar. Love that. Yes. Looking forward to include my own development skills and projects in the near future. Yes, we will be working on that. Okay, stalking with a purpose. Yes, exactly. Okay, start communication with that person before asking, connect with. Ooh, yes, that is a really good one. The only difficult thing about that, which is like to be able to start, a conversation with the person before you connect, is that LinkedIn does have the issues with talking to people that you are not directly connected to. However, one of the things that you could do for these kind of scenarios is getting warm introductions. So that's a really good way, which is like, you know, someone who knows someone that works there. You can talk to the someone that you know and say, hey, you know, I noticed that you are connected to this other person. Do you think you could introduce us? And then at that point, this middle person can be like, sure, that would be, you know, you're both great friends of mine. I think you know, your work is like in alignment. Let me connect you. At that point, you know, they can either like let that person know that you're trying to connect, or they can start a group conversation. There's different ways that can happen. So the warm introductions are a really great way to get, you know, expand your network in that way. Yes, you can send out your GitHub in the resume, and you will be going into this soon. Yes, thanks, Ellie. Yes, you can include your GitHub link in your LinkedIn. Yes. Ooh, you know what? If you have your profile set up, at least, you know, information about you and what you've, you know, your past experiences, yeah, you can go on ahead and try that. Like, reach out to someone and actually start a conversation. Like, that would be actually taking it a step further. I don't want to put that as like a requirement, just because I feel like a lot of people might be just setting it up for the first time, and you don't want to be like an empty picture and empty profile trying to connect with people, because then people think you're just like spam. So we want to like have you connect with people after you actually have stuff on your profile. But if you know, if you've used LinkedIn before and you have your profile set up, I think that's a really great idea. Like, start those conversations, because, you know, again, the earlier you start the conversations, the more people you can meet over the course of the program. So that's everything, I think. I will put this back up. I don't think we really need to do breakout rooms today, to be honest. Just so that everyone's kind of here as you're, you know, creating your LinkedIns. If anyone wants to like post it in the chat here so that others can connect with them, that's great too. Yeah, I think unless someone has, you know, what we can do is like I'll make 3 breakout rooms, and like if anyone has like specific walkthrough kind of questions where like you are trying to, you know, set up your profile and you're like, how do I do this one thing? Put your hand up and we'll see it in the main room, and then we can take you to like a one-on-one conversation with one of the instructors. I think let's do it that way for today. Let's go breakout rooms. And I'll make 3 breakout rooms. You know, 1 for each of us, and let's do it that way. I'll just open those up, and yeah, whoops. Enjoy making those up things, and let us know if you have any questions.
Sorry, can you go over the elevator pitch again?
Oh, yes, for sure. So the elevator pitch, as the name suggests, is it's like if you imagine a scenario where you are just kind of going about your day, you walk into an elevator and you find yourself with, you know, the CEO of a company you want to work with, because, you know, you're going to the same like place, or, you know, it's like you just randomly run into someone. How do you, in a very short time, as the elevator goes up to the floor that you know, selected, let the person know who you are, and that you're like, why, like who you are, what you do, and, you know, potentially like if you know who they are as well, like form a connection there. But really it's just meant to be a very brief summary of like what you do, who you are, what you do, what you're looking for, if you are looking for a job at that moment. Because honestly, like, it's like they say, what's it called? Airplanes, you know, the person who like talks to the person beside them on an airplane. I'm not sure if any of you are that person. But it's really good to be that person. I know I'm not that person. When I'm on a plane, I'm like, I'm just gonna stare out the window until everyone falls asleep. But you know, it's kind of like those it's in those random connections where you really expand your network by a lot. Because remember, any person that you like connect with, you get access to their network as well. So like, you know, if you are only connecting with 2nd-degree connections, which means you are connecting with people that you like people who know the people you are expanding your network, but it's a little bit slower because chances are there's a lot of overlap between these people as well. But if you connect with someone completely random, and don't go about like spamming people, but like if you connect with someone completely random because you ran into them, at the grocery store in the checkout line, and it was taking a long time, and they made a comment, and so you're like, oh yeah, what do you do? And they shared something interesting about themselves in their elevator pitch, and you shared something interesting about yourself in your elevator pitch based on, let's say, if you are in the workforce, or I guess actively looking for a job, and you're like, oh, you know what, let's connect later. You can have those kind of connections as well. And then when you connect later on, LinkedIn, for example, then every single person that they are connected to, you suddenly get access to. So it's really, really important to have that like really quick summary of what you do. Okay, and yeah, like for this summary, like, we will be optimizing it later on. And, this could either be based on your skill set right now, or it could even be like, you can imagine that you have finished this course. What would your pitch be? Like, what would you tell people when you run into them randomly? Or like at a networking event or whatever it is. We have a question here. Can you take help from ChatGPT? Yeah, you can. I feel like you have to be a little bit careful though, because sometimes like GPT spits out really boring things. Or like, it might not be completely what you want it to be. So I would say you can use it as like an idea generator. I think it's best to be that way. And then like tailor it more to like, your unique like style or perspective. But sure, we're in the digital world. We will use the tools available to us for that to build out your portfolio. And as you saw, like, I used it too. So again, I still have to optimize mine because my what am I saying here? My account, I think I can definitely do better in terms of what to write, but we'll go over a session on that as well in the future. GPT is now your BFF. Yeah, no, it should be, right? Like, especially when it comes to like, learning about things, getting help on like repetitive tasks, getting help on like doing, brainstorming ideas. Like, I think it's definitely a great tool. And yes, this is exactly what Najla said there. Please do make sure that you double check, what it's saying and add your own creative flair to it. Okay, so I have a question here. What sort of things do we talk about in the elevator pitch? Yeah, okay, this is awesome. So it is only, okay, so Nahum, if it's all, sorry, if it's all right, I'm just gonna read out the full thing. So what kind of things do we talk about in the elevator pitch? Because I typically struggle with formal short talk. And, it's true, like formal short talk can be really dry and really like, it feels like kind of robotic, right? It's like, hi, I'm this is, the work I do. What do you do? And then it's like this weird little exchange. With the elevator pitch, at least at this point, you don't need to worry about like the whole exchange in a way, like the back and forth. We'll talk about like, the organic, networking communications as we progress further. Right now, we just want to think about like your pitch. Like someone has come to you and they're like, what do you do? And it's like just the answer that you give. You don't need to provide like the how the conversation goes from there. In that short time frame, typically, if they say, what do you do, you will typically talk about, either the work you do, or if you're currently, let's say taking this course, what are you learning and why are you doing that? Maybe even including information about what you're looking for in the future. It's like if somebody only heard your elevator pitch, if they were a recruiter, you want to include the information in the elevator pitch that if they were a recruiter, they could go, oh, you know what, I'm looking for someone for this job. Can we talk a little further? Like, that's kind of the response that you want. Or if they're not a recruiter, but they're like, oh, you know, there's like a position open at my company and they're like looking for someone doing something similar, you know, let's talk further. That's the answer that you want to get. So any information that you think is important to get that kind of response, like, I know 30 seconds is really short, but that's the goal. That's the response you want to get. So it's like who you are, what you do, what you're looking for. You know, if you are currently looking for a job, like mentioning that so that the, you know, person you're talking to, like the, what's it called? The brain starts working on, you know, do I know any jobs that need filling right now? That's kind of the purpose of the elevator pitch.
Basically, the light bulb turns on.
Yeah, exactly. Because then they're like, you know, they've got time. They're sitting there in an elevator with you, or, you know, like in a lineup in a, you know, actual networking event. You're waiting for like coffee. You know, very simple things, but they can think very quickly about, you know, do I know any positions? Do I know any person? Or they could be like, oh, that sounds so cool. You should connect with this person that I know. And that's how these kind of organic connections happen. And really, I want to move away from the term networking, because for me, like, even until like a few months ago, it always felt really like raw, dry, icky, like kind of like, what's the term? Like, not
Uncomfortable.
Sorry?
Uncomfortable?
Yeah, uncomfortable, and like almost not genuine, because it's like you want to meet people because of a certain position they have, instead of like know the person because they're an interesting person. Like it just felt really like it didn't feel right to me. So what I like to focus on instead is connections, right? Like, how can you actually connect with the person that you randomly met? And they are going to, if you ask them to, most people are very happy to think about other people that you can connect with. It's like, oh, you seem like a really good, like, great person. You know, I know someone who is working on something similar. Here, I'll like send you, you know, their profile. You can connect with them, or they can say, you know, I'll introduce you to them. Like, it's those kind of things that are I feel like it sounds like, hello, I'm here to potentially use you. Are you useful? Yeah. So honestly, like, if you know, as I say this, you know, it is a process, and I'm not by any means like a great networker, but you know, it's like, for me, thinking about it as connections, and kind of almost from a perspective of, I'm not trying to like get something out of this. It's more like how, like, you're, it's not, maybe not this person, like the person you're talking to might not have anything for you, but 10-15 days down the line, they might come across something and then message you and say, hey, you know, I remember you mentioning this, you know, is this something that would be useful to you? Like, people want to help people. For the most part, people want to help people. People want to be, you know, kind and gracious in, you know, sharing their networks with others. It's just that we have to be, honesty, like, you know, being open, being, like, like, you won't be, you know, meeting someone and being like, hey, do you have a job for me? Like that. No. We're talking about, hey, this is what I do. Like, do you know of anything that, like, you know, is like something in line of this? Like, you don't even need to make that ask in the pitch. It's more like, this is what I do. I'm currently looking for a job. Like, no one, when if somebody says I'm currently looking for a job, like, you're not thinking, oh, they're asking me for a job, right? You're like, oh, this person's looking for a job. Okay. If you have a job, then you can be like, oh yeah, oh, you're looking for a job. Like, you know what, I'm looking for someone for this too. Or, you know, like, that's fine. Like, you're kind of just making a statement in the elevator pitch. You're kind of just introducing that you are open to a job in that statement, in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hafsa, I have one question. So I sent you a message, and I was writing a note, and I forgot that I had to go through your profile. So I I deleted it, and when I was going through your profile, now I can't send you the message because it's showing that the connection is pending, and if I cancel it, I can't connect for the next 3 weeks.
Really? Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Yeah, that's okay if you mistakenly like sent the connection request without a message. I think just text us on Slack so that we know like it's you. You mentioned it right now, so I'll know. We can just connect with you. I wasn't aware of that LinkedIn I guess function there where like if you don't send that message on the first go, it doesn't let you add it later.
Oh, it's not. It's like
Yeah, no worries. I'll see the request coming in. That's fine.
Okay, it's my name, so Samina Karim. So you
Okay.
should.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So it's important to take out my open to work symbol so companies will not contact me for web development now, since I have no clue at this moment. Yeah, so I think you can still keep it on because if someone does contact you, you can tell them like, hey, I'm taking this course. What do I need to know to get this job when I'm done? Start that conversation with the recruiter. I mean, you just got a free connection there, right? I think, all of you should have that open to work open so that people know that you're out there, and if a recruiter does come across your profile as you're building it, like if they find it interesting, like sure, connect, and maybe they won't have a job for you right now based on like, we're still learning the skills that you need, but those connections, like recruiters are people too, right? They're people looking for good people for their teams. If you've ever talked to a hiring manager, like they just want to find the best person for the job. Again, who can do it good, do it fast, do it cheap, and work well with the team, right? So just meeting these recruiters and meeting people who are also working at that company and stuff, like it's just human connections. I do think having the open to work symbol open though is gonna help with that. I feel like it's oh yeah, I read that. Honesty is best. Yeah, no, for sure. So I see here, starting starting doing it in your daily life, right? Yes, the elevator pitch that you come up with today, yeah, it might not be optimized for a job search, like for a a tech networking event. We'll get into optimizations later, but let's say you come up with a quick what do you do kind of answer. Then the next time you find yourself waiting in line with other people, you can be the weirdo that says, hey, what do you do? Like asking that person, and then you can share yours, right? Like it's I said weirdo because it's like I can be that weirdo. I do that. But it's like you're waiting for the bus and you're like, well, like I'm headed to work. Like, are you headed to work? Like, what do you do? Like, it's kind of like just getting into the habit of asking people and answering with your pitch, because it's all about practice, right? Like how many people you talk to. And it's like, I know it goes against the whole like don't talk to strangers that we were taught as kids, but that's how networking happens, right? You're talking to people that you don't know yet. All right. Okay. How do you add your LinkedIn profile link to Slack? Oh, okay. So let me show you that because. Okay, one sec. Let me see if I can pull up Slack here. One sec. I'm not sure if. Don't remember which account I signed into on Slack. Let me see Slack. I would need to make sure I can log in on browser first. Oh no, it was there for a second. Skip for now. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, so I got it. Can you see the screen share or do you see the one sec? Let me try that again. Screen share. Okay. So when you're on the Coding in Color Slack, either on your computer or on your phone, what you'll see is on the left-hand side for both, you will have this list of channels that we have. So when you are in your, and I created this, but I don't think I'm we're just using general for the most part. We'll figure this out over the weekend, I think. Let's do that. But over here on Slack, once you've logged in, you should have received a link to the Slack. Let me see if I can just pop that in here. I don't remember how to do that. Add people. I'll figure it out later. But basically, you can come into the workplace for the workspace for coding in color. Go into the networking tab here because there's general for like announcements and stuff that is private. We have networking. So you come here. We have the orientation one where a lot of you had said hi. So go into the networking one and post your link there. So here we have someone who has posted their GitHub, which, anyone who doesn't know GitHub, you'll see that in the next lecture. And their LinkedIn here. So that's how you'll do it. You just put it in here, press enter, and you'll see it there. Lecture 9 needs to be updated. Yes, I will put that up as soon as I can. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, because we uncovered all of those. You guys deserve to see it. That is awesome. This Slack is only private to us. It does not include, oh, you don't include it. Yes, that's correct. This is basically a communication channel. It's like the WhatsApp of the professional world. Or kind of like Discord. Yes, if you've ever used Discord. So basically, teams, like when teams work together in software development environments, they're typically using a communication system like this. Slack is like one of the most popular ones, but I know Teams is also like an alternative that people use, right? So we want to get you guys used to using the platform so that when you go into if you don't see it in your Slack, you might need to click on add. I don't know how it looks like on your end, but if there's an add channel button, there should be browse channels, and then you'll be able to see what other channels there are. Join the networking channel. So then you can click on that and then you'll see it. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can actually, let me see if I can add people to this members. Oh, add people. Okay. Oh, I'll have to do it manually. That's not nice. Okay. Yeah, I think do it. Just browse. I think it'll be easier if you guys do it because there's a lot of you. So yeah, just click browse, find networking, and then post your links in there. Okay, folks. Any other questions? Okay. I mean, we'll be around, so if there are any questions, just let us know. I'll just stop that share, I think. I think I'll actually keep the recording going because at least for the next 5 minutes or so, because I think there's a lot of important information that we're kind of going over as the questions come up that that would be useful for people who are watching the recording. Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't have networking in their list, click on add channels. Well, sorry, click on add channels, browse channels, and then you'll be able to see all the channels that are available. And then that'll let you join it. So on the, I guess I'm in all of them, but if you aren't, it'll let you join in there. Hey, got it. It's nice. Cindus, can you try adding it? And then let us know if you're having trouble with that. Nice. Okay, sweet. And just a reminder for everyone, if you've done the steps and you've submitted your, your links and you've submitted the, like, I'm blanking on the, oh yeah, you've submitted your elevator pitch and networking plan and all, feel free to head out. And just to remind you, like today's next, like the second lecture, just for today for now, is going to be 3 to 5. So you get like a 3-hour lunch break, basically. So we'll see you then if you are done. And again, we're here for questions. Hi guys, I just saw in the chat, we have two people who the networking chat tab on Slack isn't showing up. I'm not sure if it was clarified already, but I just wanna okay, let me just show where it is. It's under, so in channels. In channels, if you click on add channels, because basically with Slack, it shows you only the channels that you're like a part of right now. So you'll have to go to add channels, browse channels if you don't see it yet. Find the channel that you want to join and then join into that. So you'll see here that like, we actually have 123 members in total, but like only 21 people in networking right now, because you have to kind of like self-assign to this channel here. So add channel, browse, go to networking, and then you'll be inside that channel there. And this is awesome. Thank you guys for putting your LinkedIn's up. As you're doing that, visit other people's as well, form those connections. Right now, make sure to include like that connection message just to let the other person know that you are connecting because of this course as well. So Habib, I see you've put me too. Did you can you see the browse channels button? It's like I'm like assuming that it's here, but maybe it's not. So on the left-hand side, you click add channels, browse channels, and then select the one that is networking. I see 3 more people have joined since. Okay. Okay, let me stop the share here. Okay, I'm gonna pull us into a breakout room so that you can like share your screen and we can work that out together, okay? So just give me a sec here. Okay, I'll see you in room 1. Oh, I think I missed some chat messages. It tells me message sent before you join the meeting, but like because I was in breakout room. What was the question or check about? If it's unresolved still. Also, I think I might pause the recording now just so that we can save on time there. Not time, but like the recording space, because I think we've covered most of the questions.